What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first inaugural episode of Bloody Mari and Freddy the 13th's Terrorpy. Today, we're talking about something that is very close and near and dear to my heart and Mary's heart. But to get us into this episode, I think, Mary, we should talk about how we met.
Good call. I'm putting down my
mugs
coffee,
down.
Prop coffee. How did we meet, Freddy?
So we both worked together. We were both lowly people there. And lo and behold, we discovered we both love Chucky.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We were the only people watching the Chucky TV series
show.
at the point. And every single week we'd be watching it. And as soon as we'd come to work, we'd be like, did you watch it? What did you see? What happened? Is Tiffany there? Glenn popped up?
Oh, but you know someone on Chucky, don't you? Like a prop maker or something?
No, I don't know anyone on Chucky, but I did get to, there was a time period in my life where I got right for Dread Central, and we did our top 5 movies of the year that year, and I chose Cult of Chucky, which was awesome, I would say so myself. Put it on one of my top 5, and Jennifer Tilly and Don Mancini both shared it. So when I went to Frightmare and Don Mancini was there, I was like, hey man, I don't know if you know, but
you like my article?
And he was like, yeah, you're Freddy. And I was like, that's me.
I would actually throw up, like projectile vomit.
I threw up out of my eyes because I'm more of the crybaby horror guy, where I'm like, oh my God, you're in the Chucky and you made that movie. I love you. That's how I am with it, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, from that moment, I feel like we were forever bonded.
Yeah.
And so we would always talk about every horror movie coming out, all the stuff coming out, stuff from our past. And that's kind of where we got to this, I feel like, was one day, Mary and I were talking about how we love the spirituality of horror movies and we love how it kind of helps your mental health, which is why we came up with Terrorpy, which every week we were going to talk about something in horror that helped us either spiritually or help our mental health, because I do feel like as horror fans, we do feel a lot more. Would you agree?
Oh, I definitely agree.
Every single person I've met who's a horror fan
also has some sort of anxiety or something that ties into it. That's something that I really looked into a couple years ago because I didn't understand why I loved being terrified so much. And I did realize that if you have some sort of trauma or if you have depression or if you have anxiety, re-putting yourself into a position where you could feel that feeling that you felt at one point in your life, it almost gives you some sort of control.
You conquer it.
Yeah.
And I also have, like, I agree with that, but I'm also another spectrum from it, too, whereas, like, I feel like we've kind of talked about this before, where, like, I have so many people like, bro, why do you like horror movies if you're not scared of them? I'm like, shut the fuck up. For me, I'm, as a writer and, like, someone who just loves being able to take fears and make them into, like, your own personal demons and make them into, like, real demons on screen, I just love a good story.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of horror starts with drama. Because really, what's more dramatic than the stuff you fear? And that fear is horror itself. It's the same thing with, like, people who are all shitting on Jordan Peele, like, so you're a thriller. And he's like, excuse me, this is a horror film. Don't fuck with me. I was on Key and Peele, bitch. So that's kind of how I come out with it, too, where I'm like, I hate when people are like, well, this movie's not scary. And I'm like, but it's heartfelt. It's got a good story. It made me feel something. And, like, we're going to talk about that in a little bit when we talk about our picks. But, like, that's where my spirituality comes from, where, like, I know this shit may or may not be real, but, like, I do, in a sense, believe in ghosts out there. And I want to believe, as X-Files would fucking say, I want something, like, out there.
A higher being or something.
Anything, you know, just, like, something beyond our mortal plane.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, we had a whole conversation about that, too. Like, where we were just, like, basically, we're like, oh, my God, Freddy, Mary, like, you're not gonna say this. And I was like, yeah, that's where the, like, whole conceit of the show kind of came from, too.
I've been learning a lot from you, not even just for horror, but for film in general. I tend to be a little bit of a harsh critic when it comes to horror.
Snoopy.
A little bit, because I'm on the hunt for something to terrify me.
Yeah.
And that might not be, and we'll get to this later, but it might not be possible anymore because we're not children anymore.
But, like, as someone who's seen movies with you, we both have that kind of in our eye when we're watching.
Yeah.
Because even, and we'll talk about this at the end of the episode, something we watched this week, I kept looking over at Mary, and she's like in it. She's ready for it. She's wanting it. The same way where I'm like, I want that to come into me and show me something else.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel something. It's like one of my favorite Carpenter quotes where he talks about how like you're sitting around the fire, the original caveman. They're telling stories, and that's how like, you know, as a society we learned what to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's the horror of what's inside the circle, the person next to you that could hurt you. There's the horror outside of the circle, what's out there, what we don't know. And then there's the fear itself within you in the circle.
Yeah.
And those are like the three main archetypes of horror that like are out there, and each one has its own validity, but it's like, which one do you identify with?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, I gotta ask, of those three, which one do you think you would identify with?
Oh, God. That's a hard question. I have to say, I think it might be something within you, or having like
the same for me.
Outside forces definitely play a big part in it. My favorite horror movie of all time is Hereditary, and I had not been scared like that in a very long time, but I feel like more than anything that happens in that film particularly is that it's all coming from within. You're like dealing with grief and your own trauma and like all that shit. I think it's all within you. Shit that you don't want to think about or talk about.
No, for real. And that's like, I remember I had, I'm going to shit talk someone we both know, and he watches the show, so he's going to be mad. But in particular, several of my friends just watched Hellraiser for the first time. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't consider that movie something that like terrifies me, but it is that inward demons.
Yeah.
Like the Cenobites are there. But people who like only ancillary know the series, they're like, oh, Pinhead, Hellraiser. And then they watch it and they're like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, it's a family drama. And the villain's Julia.
Yeah.
It's the stepmom, even wicked stepmom, who is like literally embedded her toxicity in that whole family to like, because she wanted to fuck the uncle.
Yeah.
Which is like, damn.
Yeah.
But like, that's how, whenever I sit down and write anything, I'm like, what scares me the most right now? Okay. This is what a personal demon of mine I have. I'm going to turn that into an actual demon, and those two go together, which is what I love about horror.
Right.
But also you have stupid shit where you're like, I'm going to watch Hatchet because fuck yeah. Because I just want to see Adam Green tear some innards out of people. Or like, you know, Kane Hodder go chop some motherfuckers up in Friday the 13th. That being said, what we're going to talk about this week is, as our inaugural episode, 2 movies each. The first movie we're going to talk about is a movie that introduced us into horror and set us on this path. I know Mary's and Mary knows mine, but we have not discussed why each one has done that. So Mary, let's kick it off.
I totally forgot which one. Oh, The Craft. The Craft, bro. God, I love The Craft. Okay.
Because we are the weirdos, mister.
I grew up watching horror with my mom. She loves scary movies. I've come to find out that we like different types of horror. But she introduced me to The Craft when I was like 8 years old, and I was obsessed. It's my all-time favorite movie ever.
It's such like a starter pack movie too.
It is.
Like, it's such a good one.
And it's not even like scary or anything. It's just a vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the aesthetic.
That 90s style.
Yes.
90s goth is its own whole thing.
That was my whole teen years.
Yeah.
Just obsessed with that shit. I loved The Lost Boys.
That may or may not have been
the
movie.
Lost Boys was the 80s.
No, it's still in the same vein.
It's the same vibe.
It's that goth going into goth.
Yeah.
I feel like The Craft is the movie that started me into drag.
What?
Because like, I mean, you might not have started working there at that point, but whenever I hosted the movie parties, I would almost always end up being the only person that wanted to host like Selena or The Craft. Mm-hmm. So Selena, I did the bustier and everything. Mm-hmm. But for The Craft, I went full goth girl. Yeah. Oh my God. I had like people hooting and hollering at me, and I was like, this is it. It's my life. Goth woman. What I should have been born as.
I begged to let me serve a Craft brunch.
Well, you would go in serving with the whole get up and everything.
Yes, I would. I dressed up for it.
Yeah.
And I remember I only served it one time. And I remember going in, and not a single person in that theater had ever seen it. No one
knew about Manon?
Yes, and I was just like, okay. I'm like back in there like quoting the whole movie.
Girl,
like,
when I hosted it, I came out quoting Manon, and like the first few rows were like, "In Manon we pray," and I'm like, just say it loud. Don't act like you don't know it.
What I love about Fairuza Balk, did you know that she was actually practicing at the time that she was in the movie? She took it so seriously. I love that about her.
So there's a really terrible remake of The Island of Dr. Monroe in the 90s, and it's tentatively directed by Richard Stanley, who eventually made Color Out of Space. But this was his first big movie in his career. It was New Line Cinema, the house that Freddy built. And he got on set. He got Marlon Brando on board. He got a Val Kilmer. But when he got on set, Val Kilmer, first of all, was years, so he was a little crazy, and he couldn't keep control of everything going down. So like a couple days into filming it, he got fired from it. And Fairuza Balk was a personal friend of his, and she also was like trying to like do ceremonies on the island to get him back on and like fix the movie and everything like that. And Richard Stanley like fucked off into the jungle and came back like months later, and the crew that was still there that he had hired put makeup effects on him for him to be one of the monsters to be hidden in the movie. So like the entire time,
that's crazy.
Yeah, Fairuza Balk the entire time was doing like spells and stuff like that for the production of the movie to like try and save it.
I love that woman.
Yeah, I know, right?
Did you watch the sequel?
Did you? I didn't see it. I was
You
like,
didn't see it?
I was terrified.
Okay.
Because I heard it's like legacy. So like Fairuza Balk is Fairuza Balk like one of the mothers of one of the kids?
No.
Not even that.
Well, yes, but okay. You haven't seen it?
No. Should
Okay.
I? Should we talk about this on another episode?
I'll just let you know now. I also went into it thinking that I was going to hate it. I didn't watch it for years until, I don't know, like last year. I decided that I was going to watch it. It's cute. It's a different kind of magic. It's more about girlhood and like sticking together. It's almost like a direct, I wouldn't even say it's a direct remake. It feels very similar, but it feels like it's for a new generation of girls. But I wouldn't go into it thinking that it's going to be like the original because it's not.
Kind of sounds like Hocus Pocus 2 when I saw that one.
No, I did not like Hocus
See, I like Hocus Pocus 2. You didn't like the opening with the witches, the young witches?
I mean, it was cute.
Sisters!
It was cute. This is different. This is like, okay, so you know in The Craft how they're like bullying each other almost, that they don't fucking like each other. And they're like, if you...
Yeah, they're mean as shit.
They'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
Like how they're like bothering her.
Yeah.
It's not like that. The main girl fucks up. Spoiler. But the main girl fucks up and all the girls are jumping her ass for being a bad person. They're like,
Damn.
no, this is about sisterhood. Yeah, it's like a girl movie.
I mean, I'm down with that.
Yeah, I thought it was cute.
I'll have to check it
Yeah.
out. Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
your pick.
my pick, the reason I'm wearing this stupid ass hat, I was a baby back bitch as a child. Like, I will say it, and I've talked about this on the main cinema episodes tentatively, but so when I was raised by my grandparents, and they were super duper uber Catholic. If you swear, you're going to hell, which the amount of times I swear on the show, my grandma's probably like, he's the devil. But I couldn't watch like a PG movie even till almost like middle school. And the few times I was so terrified of everything because of like the fire and brimstone my grandma put in me. I remember my grandpa was watching Jaws one time and I saw the shark eat somebody and I was like heart palpitations. I couldn't figure it out. Like I was like, what is this? So there's always this fear that overtook me that would make me not sleep. I mean, I saw Alien for like 15 minutes and a bat got in the house right when the face hugger came out. And I was like terrified for days. Cause like it just seemed like every time I was trying to watch a horror movie,
bad luck.
yeah, every time I was trying to watch a horror movie, I was like, ah! Like that Freddy Krueger fucking scaring someone in their sleep. I was like, I'm gonna die. My little fat ass is gonna die in bed, and it's not even gonna be real Freddy Krueger. I'll just be like, huh! Dead.
Real.
Yeah. So it took me forever, and I remember the first time my mom, who's not a very great mom, loaned us a copy of Freddy vs. Jason. And my grandpa and I started watching it. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Because here's the thing. Freddy vs. Jason is a fun-ass movie. But to someone who's not used to that kind of shit, one of the opening kills is literally Jason just torrentially putting a blade down on this frat boy and then taking the bed in two and just like
Oh my God.
sandwiching his ass. And so I was like, holy Jesus fucking Christ. I don't want to be a teenager. Never sex, never, evil. Which all comes from Ronnie Yu, the director. He came at it as not a fan of either franchise, and that's why they wanted him. But he was like, I want the brutality of Rocky. Like when you're just like watching these two fight or do anything, it's just over the top insanity in the sense that like they're going to brutalize each other in the ring. So like immediately, someone who's not even used to like a Kevin Bacon spike through the chest from the original Friday the 13th, I just saw Jason basically massacre this this young man who wanted to put his pee-pee in someone. And I was like, dear God. And like, and after that happened, I was done. No mas.
How old were you?
I was like 13.
Oh God, Freddy.
And yeah, I know. I was, look at my ass now. But so finally, when I remember what it was that thing you said about like conquering your fear. And at that point in my life, I didn't realize what I really feared. And so I finally watched Freddy vs. Jason, watched the whole thing through because I just said I'm going to do it. And once that happened, the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
I watched anything and everything I could find, especially horror movies. And I think the reason that I love Freddy vs. Jason, not only did it introduce me to the genre that I care about the most, that put me in like positions of like being able to be a filmmaker or like being a journalist or anything like that, is because Jason, for me, as someone who had like a really bad past with family and stuff like that and grew up with like no friends, everyone thought I was weird. I finally realized what most horror fans immediately realize is not necessarily the monsters are the bad people. It's the bad people that make those monsters. And we can all kind of identify with those monsters, even though they're doing horrendous, terrible shit. I think also to an extent that being brought to us and seeing what these monsters become and how horrible they are, that stops us from being those people. It teaches us how to be better and like deal with our emotions better. That's why, like, I'll be honest with you, most of the time you hear about like tragic shit in the news about people doing horrendous things. They're not people who watch horror movies. They're not people who are like accustomed to that. It's usually the people who like hide their shit and they don't actually talk about their feelings and they don't have any like outlet like a horror movie.
Yeah, they pretend they're not real.
They're the people who are like, oh, this is the problem with society is horror movies. And I'm like, problem with society is you, motherfucker. So that's kind of why I love Freddy vs. Jason. I watch it like probably yearly. Every Friday the 13th. I have a Friday the 13th party. We always end up watching Freddy vs. Jason as the last one. And I even make the Jason burgers from Jason Goes to Hell. The little hockey mask burgers.
I'll be real. I haven't seen any of the Friday the 13th movies.
I know what we're doing Friday the 13th.
I've seen the first one, and that's pretty much it. I saw Freddy vs. Jason a couple days ago for the very first time.
Was it fun as fuck?
I didn't even know that you were gonna pick it, so it was just wild. That it's like it's a coincidence.
Fate.
It's crazy, but I thought it was so fun, and I found out that it's by the same people who did Bride of Chucky.
Bride of Chucky, yeah, Ronnie Yu.
Which is my favorite fucking Chucky movie.
That movie rules.
Ugh, it's the best.
Hell yeah.
The best.
All right, so that first bit is our introduction, more or less, into everything of what we're going to be doing. But now we're going to do one more segment here. We're going to talk about what helped us spiritually or mentally through the week. What is our movie pick?
Right.
Mary, what do you got?
Actually, you should start.
Okay.
Yes, because I feel like this one has been your like go-to.
It has been. So recently, and like we're going to get real on this show a lot because we're talking about what is helping us.
Yeah.
So recently, beyond a bunch of other drama in my life, I have had a lot of friends pass away, especially at a young age. One of my best friends just passed away, and they were only 29. And one of the things we had in common was our love for the Conjuring movies. The Conjuring movies, we would both joke about like how the Warrens were couples goals. And like I would consider my friend who passed away like my spiritual soulmate. Like we both like as friends, like everything together, horror movies especially. And we had the same taste and everything. The thing with that as well is we both love the Insidious movies. The thing I love about the Insidious movies is it really gives you a spirituality and gives you something to kind of hold on to. Even though there's like so much dark, evil stuff in those movies, there's just enough of like the light that like, you know, Patrick Wilson and his family get through, and they use that to, you know, be together and really shine together. That being said, the movie that I've been watching a lot lately to kind of reconnect myself with my lost friend is Insidious 5, The Red Door, which was directed by Patrick Wilson and has that song by Ghost that called Stay that he also sang on. And my friend who passed away, their favorite band was Ghost. So when I watched that movie for the first time in theaters, I was already going through my own like stuff. And I remember by the end, because the whole movie is about like them trying to make sure that Dalton the kid and Patrick Wilson's character, the father, forgot everything that happened in the Insidious movies. So they basically erased their memory of everything. this has caused a pain in their family dynamic because Patrick Wilson knows there's something wrong with him that he can't remember, and it's made him divorce his wife. Dalton is now in like college, and he's trying to figure his own stuff out. He starts getting visited by ghosts because he has the same powers as his father, but neither of them remember it. So the whole movie is about them getting back together and like piercing the veil of the afterlife and figuring out how to be a family again, how to be normal again, and how to deal with what Elise, Lynn Shay's character, used to call a gift for them that they see as a curse. And by the end of that movie, you got the ghost song playing, and I was just bawling. So I've been rewatching that, feeling very much closer to my friend who's passed away, and that's helped me spiritually hope and believe that they're still there with me in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. And that ghost song playing, Stay, where it's literally talking about stay with me, I feel that a lot. Yeah. And I have just been like, you know, it's been 2 weeks now since they passed, and I've just been crying, listening to that song, watching that movie. And that has been the movie that has helped me spiritually this week, and in turn, helped my mental health a little bit just to keep going.
I love you, Freddie.
I love you too, Mary.
I don't know if you know this, but I know that I said that The Craft was, and it's my favorite movie of all time. But I think what really did get me into horror was the very first Insidious. I remember when it came out. I don't remember ever being like horrified by other horror movies. Like I would get scared, but none of them made like a lasting impact where I would like remember it for a really long time or even called it my favorite movie. So I was like 11 and I watched it with one of my friends at the time and we were like swimming all day and doing 11-year-old girl shit.
You're like, the sun's out.
Yeah. We're like, let's go watch this horror movie. And she had seen it already, so she knew what was going to happen.
You weren't prepped.
It scared the shit out of me. I could not sleep that night. And it was the very first time that I became obsessed with horror.
Hell yeah.
Was because of the very first
You're
Insidious.
chasing that dragon, man.
I really am. It was the best. That was the very first time that I felt really drawn to a horror movie, to the point that I had watched it every single day for the rest of the summer. And by the time that I got into the 6th grade, I told everybody that it was my favorite movie ever. Yeah. It was the very first time that I told someone that a horror movie was my favorite movie.
That's so cool. Holy shit.
Yeah. I loved that movie.
Yeah.
Even to this day, like, I think it holds up to some facet.
It's also like the amazing thing about the filmmaking process of it. So it's like Lee Winnell and James Wan, who made Saw at that point, and they had made Dead Silence, which is another.
I love Dead Silence.
I love that movie's fun as shit. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
I watch it all the time, every Halloween.
Beware the Stare of Mary Shaw. So good, dude.
Hello.
But like Dead Silence was a flop for them, so they were like, "What do we do? We came off of Saw, like literally launching our careers. We finally have a studio make a movie for us, and we fucked up, according to everyone. What do we do?" And so Lee Winnell was like, you know, let's make a haunted house movie. And James Wan's like, I mean, that's been done. He's like, but let's do this. Let's start writing it. And every time that it gets to a point where something that would be a trope for a haunted house movie would happen, let's flip it. Which I remember the biggest thing. So the entire writing process was every time it would get to a point where you would do the basic shit, they would do the opposite. And so I remember the first time I watched it in theaters, the big thing for me was I saw the fact that the mom's like, we got to get out of here. We got to move. And they're like, yeah, we're moving. Which was like...
Oh, yeah. And then they keep following them. Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. That scared the shit out of me. Like, a house isn't haunted. A person is?
It's you.
We're fucked.
Yeah.
But all right, Mary. So what is your pick to help you this week?
Okay. I had a rough time picking one, but I've noticed that within the past month, I've been going back to the same movie, and that's Talk to Me.
Oh, shit. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said,
Racka Boys.
I didn't even know who they were.
I found out when I watched the movie, and I was like, I can't believe those Ronald McDonald motherfuckers made this.
Well, they're making like big stunts in their videos, and you can really see that throughout the movie.
Yeah, their filmmaking prowess is amazing.
It's crazy. But like I said, Hereditary is my favorite horror movie of all time. And when I went to go see this, I was actually living in LA at the time, and I was going through my own shit. I was very depressed and isolating, and I was looking forward to this movie for so long, and I think everybody had already seen it. So I didn't really have anybody in LA to be talking to about this movie. So I went to go see it at the Grove in a very tiny theater by myself. No one else was in this theater with the exception of like one man in the corner snoring. So I'm watching this movie, and it gave me a feeling that was very similar to Hereditary, which is something that I'm looking for. And it's not just being terrified. There's just like this weird comfort that I get from Hereditary, that like sense of family almost, that you have like this weird thing with your family. I didn't have like the best family dynamic with certain people. Like, yeah. So watching Hereditary, I definitely got that from that. But watching Talk to Me, I've also dealt with a lot of grief and this feeling of impending doom. And we'll get to what that means for me and what has been going on in later episodes. But I've been dealing with a lot of that for the past year or two. So watching this and watching Mia go through that, where she is grieving and it's very fresh and not having anybody to talk to and isolating, but like trying to pull herself to talk to people, but like still feeling like I need to be there for myself. I need to take care of myself. But ultimately, she's people pleasing. And really what it turns into is that I think that Talk to Me represents what grief can turn into, which is addiction.
Yeah.
And it can turn into anything. And I think what I really recognized was her addiction to the hand, but it almost like was reminiscent of like drug addiction. So I was showing this to my mom the last time that I saw her. And that's when I realized that we have two very different versions of what horror means to us.
Is she more like the fun old school stuff?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Her favorite, I don't know if it's her favorite horror movie, but the one that scared the shit out of her was The Exorcist.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
Yeah. So we're just very different in that way. And I think that this was too dark for her.
Because, there's no, as I've talked about on episodes of Cinemeal, was like, I like badass motherfucking servants of God. Mm-hmm. So, which is one of my favorite lines from Dusk Till Dawn. And like, I do think there is like, for people like me, I don't know how your mom grew up, but like I said, I grew up in a very religious family. So like, The Exorcist is another one that I really love because like, I've been living in that shit almost my whole childhood, like going to church every week and shit like that. Like, I can see where like that could be her favorite, because I know a lot of people who have had that upbringing and that's like their favorite horror movie. But I also see where like, for me, I think I'm kind of rounded in the sense that like, yeah, I love it when light can prevail over evil, but I'm also like, I love like Twilight Zone. I love like Tales from Dark Side. So like, I'm also for like, let's get that ending where it's not cut and dry and like, there's maybe, it's dark. You need that sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's like whenever I read or like watch a Clive Barker thing, most of his endings are really fucked up. And the only ending of his for anything I've ever seen is this book called Next Testament, where literally God is this like evil being of color that comes out and starts fucking up the world. And there's two lovers in it that like defy him by like just being in love with each other and not giving in to like all this other shit going on. And so by the end of it, God literally turns into the colors in the sky and they live happily ever after. And that's like, that's the happiest Clive Barker's ever fucking been, So like, I get that, but you do need you need that darkness sometimes to end it, Yeah. That's the horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is why I think that I'm so drawn to horror movies that are like that, though they can get to be a little bit too much for me.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it constantly where I'm only watching dark shit, but there's something so comforting about, I don't know, the like low-key reality of it, like knowing that they're performing as if they are real fucking people, like dealing with real shit, and every decision that they make is something that a real person would be. I would make those decisions. I would do the exact same thing. I would probably fall into the same trap that Mia fell into if I was going through the same thing.
But that's what teaches us. Mm-hmm. That's how we learn. That's how we become better people.
Right.
That's the mental health of
horror.
But all right, guys. So I think we're going to go ahead and end this episode this week. But please give us any ideas you have for movies that we should see or books we should read to help us with the journey through our mental health and spirituality of horror. Tell us what you think about our choices. Tell us some stuff that you've had that has helped you, and let us know. And we'll continue this journey together here on Terrorpy.
If you enjoyed this, remember to like and subscribe and leave a little comment and tell us what you think.